Hi guys and welcome back to the Mighty Blues. My name is of course Cameron and welcome back today to another video. It is another transfer rumour video. We're going to talk about the latest Everton news and rumours from the last couple of days or so since we last did one of these videos. Everton have been linked with a move for Southampton striker Che Adams. We've had somewhat of an update on the Wilfred Gnonto saga. However, things seem to be stalling a little bit in regards to that move, and we're also going to talk about a couple of other players that Everton have been linked with making moves for in the summer transfer window. But let's get straight into it. According to Sky Sports News, Everton have made a £12 million bid for Southampton striker Che Adams. That was reported yesterday afternoon. We then heard earlier on this morning that, according to The Guardian, as well as hoping to sign Che Adams from Southampton, Everton are also hopeful on signing Southampton winger Kamaldeen Sulemana and have not giving up hope on signing Leeds winger Wilfred Gnonto. I believe the Southampton manager has been speaking regarding the Che Adams stuff and has spoken about his want to keep the player at the football club, but also expressed the knowledge that if he is to leave the football club, then they will have to, of course, replace him. So not completely shutting off the idea of Che Adams moving away from Southampton, and also not giving too much away in regards to whether or not they have had a bid tabled from Everton Football Club. Again, obviously Che Adams was one of those players that we spoke about a couple of weeks ago when we did the video regarding strikers that Everton are looking for. He's actually played 2 championship games so far, scored 2 goals, so 2-2 for Southampton. Both of those appearances coming off the bench. He hasn't started a championship game for them yet, so he's made 2 appearances off the bench and scored 2 goals in their campaign thus far. Last season, of course, 28 Premier League games, 5 goals and 3 assists. He is predominantly a centre forward. He has played the odd game on the left or the right hand side, but he's played 240 games in his career as a centre forward, scoring 73 goals and gaining 29 assists. Like I said, he had 8 goal involvements last season, which would have been more than Everton's highest, goal involver, if that's the term to use, which of course was Dwight McNeil. He did play 5 EFL Cup games and scored 5 goals as well. So altogether last season, Che Adams tabled 10 goals and 3 assists in 33 appearances for Southampton. Again, we don't know how many of those appearances were starting appearances and how many of them were off the bench, but 10 goals and 3 assists, like I said, is more goal involvements than any of Everton's players in the last year. He did play 2 FA Cup games as well, 35 appearances, but didn't register a single goal or assist. There, 30 games in the Premier League the season before, 7 Premier League goals and 3 assists, so 10 goal involvements in 30 Premier League games, played a couple of cup games as well, got the odd goal there, and then the season before, 36 Premier League games, 9 goals and 5 assists, so he's consistently gotten over 10 goals and assists, 10 goal involvements in each of his last 3 Premier League seasons, meaning he would instantly become one of Everton's most effective players if he was to continue on that trajectory. Obviously, there has been a lot of talk about Che Adams over the course of the last couple of weeks or so, because he has been a name that has been brought up before in terms of players that Everton have been linked with. Same with Patson Daka, who looks like he could be off to Monaco. Same with Kelechi Iheanacho. Same with Mikel Antonio and a couple of other names. And Che Adams has been one that I think when we did the video, I said that I would probably either prefer Che Adams or Patson Daka. However, I understand that, again, there is still a risk that comes with signing somebody that, ultimately only scored 5 Premier League goals last season from a forward position. Again, those stats may be a little bit misleading, because out of those 28 appearances, I'll be honest, I can't tell you off the top of my head how many of those games were starts. Let's say 18 of those games might have been off the bench. He has come off the bench twice already this season and scored 2 goals. So again, it's quite difficult to sort of understand whether or not that was a good return or whether or not that was a disappointing return. But ultimately, what we can say for a matter of fact is those figures, if Che Adams can put up again this season, would almost certainly improve us. He's obviously, a big striker in terms of his physical presence. He's 27 years of age, so he's not necessarily at a great age to bring to the football club in terms of early 20s. A lot of potential. He is what he is, Che Adams, at this point, and maybe 5, 6, 7 Premier League goals a season is probably the max you're going to get out of him. However, having said that, he's still at a good age, so he's still got a good couple of years, hopefully at sort of the top of his level before he starts to decline. 27 years old, like I mentioned, Scottish international player, of course, and somebody that reportedly Everton have made a £12 million bid for. Again, would I be happy with this one? Well, look, I think I said last week that I get the feeling that Everton will be looking to bring in one of those sort of experienced Premier League forwards that we've been speaking about for the last couple of weeks or so. Obviously, we know we've got Yusuf Chimiti in at the football club, and whilst we've been linked with, the likes of Ekatike from PSG, and whilst we've been linked with Boulaye Dia and various other names, I always felt like if Everton were going to go and bring in a young player and then another centre-forward, the young player ultimately would be Yusuf Chimiti, and the experienced centre-forward would probably be somebody that has played in the Premier League before. Because whether we like it or not, and whether we agree with it or not, and I don't particularly agree with it, we know, as a matter of fact, that one of the standout points that Everton are looking for when it comes to recruiting players is, have they got Premier League experience? Now, that, for me, should not necessarily be the case, because I don't think that having Premier League experience is the be-all and end-all. But ultimately, we know, and the past has told us, and previous purchases have told us, that Everton do prioritise players that have had that experience in this division. And maybe that is the sensible thing to do, because maybe that's the way the club are looking at it in order to keep us in the Premier League. Whilst there's a striker over there in Italy that scored 10 goals last season, the Italian league is much more different than this league, and there's no guarantee that he'd be able to come over and replicate that. Whereas Che Adams, around about 7, 8, 9, 10 goal involvements each season, doing that in the Premier League, knows the league, knows the pace, knows obviously everything about it. So, there's nothing is a guarantee in football, but there's a much higher chance of Che Adams coming in and scoring, let's say, 5 or 6 Premier League goals this season than maybe Boulaye Dia, even though Boulaye Dia is at a better age, and if Boulaye Dia could acclimatise to the Premier League, and I'm just using him as an example because he's somebody that we've been linked with that hasn't had that Premier League experience, then yeah, in the long run, that would of course be a better deal. But if he can't do that, then of course that doesn't work out, and we know that Che Adams is capable of doing it. There's no guarantee that he's going to come in and do it, but we know he's capable of doing it because he's shown it before. Like I said, I wouldn't be overly upset with this one. Everton's financial position at the moment is massively confusing. If you'd have said to me 3 weeks ago Everton are going to spend £12 million on Che Adams, I'd have sat here and went, what, £12 million on Che Adams? That we haven't really got £12 million to be spending on somebody that scores 5 Premier League goals. But then we brought in Yusuf Chimiti for £12 million, and now we're being linked with spending another £12 million. And the report from The Guardian states that Everton are wanting to sign Che Adams as well as Kamaldeen Sulemana. Now, Kamaldeen Sulemana of Southampton will more than likely be a loan if we can get that one over the line. But they haven't given up hope on Leeds United winger Wilfred Gnonto. We know Wilfred Gnonto is going to cost us a significant amount of money. We're going to move on to that topic in just a moment. But maybe Everton have got, I don't know, 30, 40, 50 million pounds to spend, or at least, maybe 20 million in upfront payment that we can spend, and therefore we can afford to go and bring in a Che Adams, as well as, going and getting a Gnonto or another winger if the Gnonto deal doesn't formulate into anything. So, yeah, like I said, I'm a little bit confused at the moment as to where Everton are financially. 4 weeks ago I probably wouldn't have been happy spending £12 million on a 27-year-old, but now I look and I think, well, out of the options that are available, it's become quite evident that Everton are going to bring somebody in with Premier League experience. So then you're looking at Che Adams, Mikel Antonio, Kelechi Iheanacho, Patson Daka, but he's reported to be off to Monaco. I think Che Adams probably fits the bill in terms of a similar build and style to Dominic Calvert-Lewin. He can hold the ball up well. He can find the back of the net. He's big. He's physical. He can be a nuisance. He occupies defenders. His middle name is Everton, which is, let's be honest, we all know that that's the be-all and end-all. No, money messing. But in terms of that fit to Dominic Calvert-Lewin, he probably is more similar than maybe any of the other names. Let me just get his height up here, because his height is actually in meters. 5'8", so not as tall as Dominic Calvert-Lewin, of course. So obviously not as big of an aerial presence as Dom, but he can still head the ball. He gets up well, and as I said, he makes up for his height in other areas. His physicality is very good. His hold-up play is good as well. So again, we may be in a position at the moment where bringing somebody like Che Adams in for 12 million quid with Premier League experience, 27 years old, so still ultimately got, a good few years left in the tank, or certainly, the hope is that he's got a good few years left in the tank. Hopefully, that would work out as a good move for the football club. I'm just trying to find out if I can get his injury history up. Let's have a little look at his injury history. So, according to Transfer Market, he's had one injury in 2020. Well, two injuries technically. He had 3 days for quarantine, which I assume was because of COVID in early 2021. And then in late December 2020, he had 16 days out injured with a head injury, and that's it. So he's not somebody that is particularly injury prone. He's not somebody that picks up many injuries. So therefore, he'll be reliable at the very least, and he'll be available at the very least as well. And again, if you look at it just directly in terms of what we've got in the squad at the moment, I think he is a better alternative to Dominic Calvert-Lewin than what Neil Maupay is, and ultimately that means we'd be upgrading, and ultimately that means we'd be in a better position. So look, some people mightn't be happy with this because of the money, and people might say, well, we could go and spend that 12 million elsewhere. But I think I've pretty much come to the conclusion now that we are going to end up bringing somebody in that ultimately is going to split the fan base, because they'll probably be at, that age, 26, 27. There'll probably be somebody that has done okay, but not necessarily excited many people. And there will be somebody with Premier League experience. And ultimately, all of the names we've been linked with so far are of that. And I think Che Adams is probably the most exciting out of all of them. Either him or I think Ian Acho would have been a good deal to try and get done, but ultimately the club have shifted their focus on Che Adams, and let's see if we can get this one over the line. £12 million bid so far. Obviously doesn't mean that it will be accepted. We've heard nothing else since the report that there has been a bid, so it might be rejected, and we might end up playing a long ball game like we have done with Wilfred Gnonto, but we will wait and see how this one progresses over the coming days. On to Wilfred Gnonto then. Like I said, The Guardian reporting this morning that Everton have not given up hope on signing the Leeds United winger. Fabrizio Romano was talking last night. He said he knows Everton are pushing to sign him, and he's pushing on his side with Leeds. Leeds are not moving their position. They do not want to sell him. It is tense and a complicated situation. This comes after Mike McGrath yesterday of the Daily Telegraph. He reported that Wilfred Gnonto wants to leave Leeds United. However, they have made it clear he will not be sold. Leeds hope that Gnonto can be integrated back into the first team eventually and sign a new contract, which will include favourable clauses. Now, this obviously all comes after the reports stating that Everton have tabled a third bid for Wilfred Gnonto. Jack Talbot reported a couple of days ago that Everton have made a third bid for Leeds United winger Wilfred Gnonto. Everton's bid of £25 million, including add-ons for the Italian. This came on the same day that Leeds United manager Daniel Farke confirmed that Wilfred Gnonto was training away from the Leeds United first team and has been moved out of the dressing room. But he also said in the same press conference, Daniel Farke, that Leeds United are becoming more and more in control of the situation. as the days go on, which I felt was a little bit strange. I remember listening to him say that, and I thought, what do you mean Leeds United are becoming more and more in control of the situation as the days go on? Surely Leeds are becoming less in control of the situation because the days are going on and they've got a decision to be made, etc., etc. But Daniel Farke seems to believe that Leeds United very much still have the ball in their court for the player, and in a way they do. They do still have the ball in their court because he's their player. He's contracted to them, and if they don't want to let him go, they don't have to let him go. Like I said, the report of a third bid of £25 million, including add-ons, was not backed up massively, and by that what I mean is obviously Jack Talbot reported it, and there were a couple of sources stating the same thing. However, people like The Athletic, Fabrizio Romano, various other sort of sources that you would maybe deem as the sort of top end of reliability, none of them had reported that there had been a third bid, and I feel like had they have been a third official bid, then that would have been quite widely reported, because this is quite a big transfer saga at this point, isn't it? So the reality is we don't actually know whether or not there has been a third bid. What I would say is, if there has been a third bid and Leeds United have rejected £25 million, I think it's probably about time we move away from Wilfred Gnonto now. We have been caught before numerous times in the past by overpaying for players. We overpaid for Gylfi Sigurdsson, paying £40 million when we simply didn't need to pay that much money. Michael Keane, we did the same, and we've done it notoriously over the years, where we've just gone, well, what do you want then? Well, we want 40 million. Well, we'll find you can have 40 million. When in reality, the player themselves aren't worth 40 million. Now, Leeds reportedly are wanting 30 plus million plus add-ons for Wilfred Gnonto and a significant sell-on clause. Now, for me, I don't think Wilfred Gnonto is worth that type of money. I don't. And whilst we all want him to join the football club, and whilst he clearly wants to join the football club, and whilst this has been, again, this has dragged on for that long now, that I worry that people are going to find themselves in a position where they just say, whatever, just pay the money, because it's gone on for that long. We've talked about him for that long that we just want to see him in an Everton shirt. I don't think that's how we can do business. I'll be honest, for me, Everton ultimately have to have a valuation for Wilfred Gnonto, and a figure that they deem his worth to be included, and a lot of things will be included in that decision: his age, his potential, his contract length, his, the situation ongoing at the moment. There'll be a lot of things that will be taken into consideration, and when all of those things are taken into consideration, Everton then have to come up with a figure that they believe he is worth. Now, do I think Everton believe that figure was 15 million quid? No. I think they probably think it's somewhere in the range of 25 million pounds. But they start with a 15 million pound bid, because that's what you do. If you think something is worth 40 quid and you want to buy it and it's in an auction or whatever, you don't start with 40 quid. You start with 15 quid and you see if you can get it cheaper. And then when you get to 40, you say, right, that's me. 40, I'm done. So I feel like Everton probably did play that game. 15 million, no. 20 million, no. Now we're at 25 million. I think this should be, or reportedly we're at 25 million. As I said, we don't know whether or not there's been an official bid made yet, but I think 25 million should be the max mark. Now, if Leeds United come back and reject 25 million and say, no, we want 30 plus, I'd walk away. I think he's a good player. I think he's got a lot of potential. I think he improves us. He's fast. He's quick on the counter. He obviously wants to join the football club, but ultimately that doesn't mean that Everton should go out and overpay what they believe he is worth. And what are we going to do? Bid 30 million and Leeds go, well, no, we want 35. Now you just get to a point where this saga continues for another week, another 2 weeks, another 3 weeks, and then we end up ultimately missing out on him and not being able to sign somebody else because it's too little too late. I said about 4 weeks ago I would move on from Wilfred Gnonto now, unless the player himself pushes for the move. The player himself then decides to push for the move, and still is pushing for the move. Obviously, he's training away from the rest of the Leeds squad. He's made it quite known that he wants to leave that football club, etc., etc. Now I think we're back where we were 5 weeks ago, where we have to sit here and say, right, okay, Everton, for me, now have to table their final bid, whatever that may be, £25 million, £27 million, whatever it might be, table the final bid, and if Leeds come back and say no, then we walk away. and ultimately we say, right, okay, well, we're not willing to pay more than that because we don't believe he's worth more than that, and we can't continue to waste another week, another 2 weeks on this situation. We're going to move away and we're going to go and pursue somebody else because we don't want to be left with a week to go before the transfer window and Leeds go, actually, no, we don't want to sell him, so we're not even going to talk to you, and then we're rushing around having to buy a replacement. So for me, like I said, the Gnonto stuff is stalling, and ultimately is not going anywhere at this point. And I think because of that, Everton need to make a decision, and that decision needs to be whether or not we're even going to table a final bid. Like I said, reports suggesting that we have tabled a 25 million bid. Other reports suggesting that we haven't. So we either need to decide, right, okay, are we going to make this final bid if we haven't already? Yes or no. And if we are, then if it gets rejected, walk away. And, ultimately that happens in football sometimes. You want a player, but the team that, they're playing for just wants too much, and you just have to walk away and go and get an alternative. Will it be disappointing if that's the case? Well, yes, of course it will be disappointing because we've spent so long talking about Wilfred Gnonto and we've spent so long pursuing this deal. But it is what it is. It is what it is, and ultimately that's what happens in football. Sometimes, your club you're trying to negotiate with is playing hardball. They don't want to sell their player, and even though their player wants to leave, and even though you're tabling big amounts of money, they're still sticking with their guns. And at that point, you ultimately just have to say, right, okay, well, we're going to walk away from it then. And best of luck. We'll walk away from it, and we'll go and pursue somebody else because we are only a couple of weeks away now from the transfer window closing, and we don't want to get to deadline day still on the hope that Wilfred Gnonto will sign for Everton. Although it may be, we may be in a situation where Leeds United sort of are not forced to sell him, but Leeds United maybe, as the time goes on, they're backed into a wall to sort of accept a lower bid. We can't really afford to take that risk. So that for me is where I'm at with Wilfred Gnonto. If Everton have tabled that their bid for 25 million and it's being rejected, I'd walk away. If they haven't, that would be the max I would go to is 25 million pounds, because I think beyond that is getting to the point where it's becoming a little bit silly. And yeah, we'll wait and see how this one progresses or doesn't over the next coming days, because as I said, it's been the same with this situation for weeks and weeks and weeks. A lot is happening, but really nothing is happening. We are in the same position as we were 6 weeks ago. Leeds don't want to sell him, Everton want to sign him. We might have had a couple of bids rejected. We might have had the player come out and say he wants to move. But really and truly, when it comes down to the actual action, we are still in the same position as we were 6 weeks ago with Wilfred Gnonto. And we can't afford to waste much more time on this. Anyway, moving on. According to Team Talk, Everton are interested in Burnley midfielder Josh Brownhill. Wolves, Crystal Palace and Leeds are also said to be interested. Again, this is the first I've heard about this. Whether or not this has got anything in it is remains to be seen. According to Fabrizio Romano, Everton and West Ham are both interested in Porto winger Gonçalo Borges. Again, Everton seem to be interested in a lot of players, a lot of European players, a lot of young, up and coming, talented, forwards. Yeah, whether or not this one goes any further than an interest, we'll wait and see. He's somebody that I believe has got a lot of interest around him, around Europe. So whether or not we actually see anything from this, I don't know, but we'll wait and see. Another player who Everton are interested in, according to Sacha Tavaleri, Everton are one of the two clubs currently in talks for Johan Bakayoko, said to make an official approach to PSG Eindhoven in the coming hours, and that was on Wednesday, and we've heard nothing since. PSG have not left the race yet, so, well, if PSG want him, then Everton may as well leave the race now. Few rumours around Tom Cannon. He is set to join Preston North End on loan for the season, according to Chronic Live and various other sources. The Echo reported that Everton are not currently pursuing a move for Southampton goalkeeper Alex McCarthy. That was after reports suggesting we were pursuing a move for him. And yeah, that is pretty much where we are in terms of transfer news. The Che Adams reports obviously being the sort of primary at the moment. And the Gnonto stuff, just doesn't seem to be moving. Shamoon Hafiz from the BBC yesterday said no change to the Gnonto situation from a couple of days ago. Bit of an impasse at the moment. 2 bids rejected by Leeds, who are adamant he isn't for sale. Everton have told Leeds how much they are willing to pay for the player. So there you go. So if Everton have said to Leeds, we're willing to pay this much, and Leeds have said, no, he's not for sale, walk away. Put the phone down and just don't bother. Walk away and move on to somebody else. That is all. We have had a couple of fixture changes. Our fixture against Liverpool and Anfield is now on Saturday the 21st of October, 12:30pm kickoff, and our game against West Ham United at London Stadium is on Sunday the 29th, 1pm kickoff. Before we go, I just want to say Jack Harrison has had his has done his media duties. By the way, he's done his interview. He's spoken about his excitement to join the football club. He's spoken about how proud he is to join the football club as well. He says it's a pleasure to get the deal over the line. I'm really excited to be here. The general feeling from the club has been super positive, so I'm just hoping to get back fit soon and be back on the pitch. It's a massive club. I remember coming to Goodison Park and it was always so difficult because of the fans and the great atmosphere that the people bring to Everton, so I'm excited to be on the other side of that and be part of it and to hopefully bring something they can cheer about as well. He has done a big long interview. I'm not going to sit here and read the whole thing out because it's pretty much the same stuff as we hear from most players. But yeah, if you want to check that out, then obviously go and check that out on the official Everton website. And before we finish, I just want to discuss something because I didn't mention it the other day because it was obviously fairly recent and I wanted to give it a bit of time and a bit of space. But obviously it goes without saying, the thoughts and prayers and all the love in the world goes out to the family and friends of Michael Jones, who's the young lad who unfortunately lost his life whilst working on Everton's new stadium at Bramley-Moore Dock earlier this week. It's a absolutely heartbreaking situation. He was a massive Evertonian. He was, by all accounts, I never met him myself, but by all accounts he was a lovely lad. Went and watched Everton home and away proper. Blew his dream was to work on the stadium, so he was obviously living that dream, and by all accounts he was, like I said, a really lovely, nice, down to earth lad who just loved this football club and just wanted to support them like the rest of us do. So absolutely heartbreaking news, devastating stuff. Everton have retweeted a couple of tweets regarding some tributes for him. The 1878 have created a banner that says "Rest in peace, Michael Jones, forever in our hearts," and they have said that we'll be paying tribute to him on the 26th minute by doing a minute's applause and chanting, "Oh, Michael Jones, he's one of our own." That obviously being in the game against Aston Villa on Sunday. So if you are there, please join in with that chant if you are attending. Another thing I want to mention as well is the A Villa Fan podcast, which is a podcast run by Aston Villa fans. They have been very sort of I don't want to use the word good because it's not the right word, but they've been absolutely brilliant in their support for obviously the GoFundMe page for Michael Jones and his family and his friends, of course, and they've been very supportive in sharing all of the stuff about getting the chant going and sharing the stuff about the banners, and obviously they've there's a couple of Aston Villa pages that have shared the GoFundMe page and have donated themselves and have obviously spoken about getting something done on Sunday in terms of tributes for him. And as well as that, and I must say this because it would be unfair of me to not mention this, there was a Liverpool page. Bear with me 2 seconds and let me get it up because I don't want to not give this the attention that it deserves. There was a Liverpool page called the Hillsborough Survivors Support Alliance, and they tweeted out, "On the 26th minute at Anfield on Saturday, let's show our respect to Michael Jones with a minute applause. He was a football fan just like us, loved his team and followed them home and away." And Jamie Carragher retweeted that with a blue and a red heart. So big shout out to that Liverpool fan page and any other Liverpool fan and any other fan of any other football club that is obviously being shared in the GoFundMe page and shared in the tributes, and hopefully we see those tributes, along the Premier League. It will be lovely, as much as there are rivals and this, that, and the other. It would be lovely if if there was a chant going at Anfield on Saturday, and then obviously at Villa Park on Sunday afternoon as well. So yeah, just wanted to say that. Obviously, devastating news. Nobody should go to work and not come home. It's heartbreaking stuff. And yeah, sending my love, thoughts, prayers, wishes to all of his family, and yeah, obviously, hopefully we can give him a tribute that he deserves on the weekend, and going forward as well. It would be lovely if we could integrate some form of tribute into the new stadium, for permanent in his memory. So yeah, there you go. Anyway, we are going to leave it there. If you have enjoyed it, please do leave a like. Don't forget to subscribe if you are new as well. We will be back with the game preview to our Premier League fixture against Aston Villa later on this evening, so don't forget to look out for that one. But until then, massive thank you for watching. Really do appreciate it, and we'll see you soon.